folks, welcome to Mr. H on YouTube. Today we are going to be talking about the election of 1860 and how this event led to the Civil War and the 4 years of conflict afterwards. But before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe to Mr. H on YouTube. If you subscribe, hit that bell button for more notifications about the videos that I put out, because hopefully by the end of this week we'll be putting out a fun video for all the students that are missing being in school. So let's get right into the election of 1860. The election of 1860 came at a very perilous time in the United States. The slavery issue was at the forefront. The Compromise of 1820, the Compromise of 1850, the ideas of popular sovereignty, and the Dred Scott decision had all culminated in a atmosphere where people knew that compromise was over. The country had to go two ways, and there really was no way for there to be any more settlements. And so as the candidates were formed together, the idea was, are you on the side of slavery? Are you on the side of anti-slavery? The ineffectiveness of the presidents before this, most notably, like for instance, like Franklin Pierce, really, you just don't have a really effective leadership to unite the country. And so, what was also going on that had really divided the country? Well, let's talk about the new political party that was running for the second time, which was the Republican Party. Election of 1860 was not the first time that the Republicans had won, that had competed in a presidential election. However, it will be, spoiler alert, the first time that the Republicans win a presidential election. Where did the Republican Party come from? Well, it's a combination of a lot of different things. Primarily, they were from the Northern Whig Party. The Whigs had, by this point, died out and had lost their effectiveness. So most of the Northern Whigs had formed together to form a new political party in connection with the anti-slavery movement, primarily going with Republicans, because Democrats at this time were based primarily in the South and were seen as the party of the slave planters in the South. The wealthy plantation owners had a lot of sway with the political bosses in the Democratic Party, and so the Democratic Party had a hard line when it came to slavery. Another aspect of the Republican Party was the Free Soil Party that joined together with the Republicans. The Free Soilers were not anti-slavery, but they were mostly okay with slavery staying in the South, so that the West, including like Nebraska and Kansas, would be available for white people. We should not confuse the Free Soilers with, for instance, like the abolitionists. The Free Soilers really were only looking out for white Americans to make sure that they weren't going to have to compete for jobs with the slaveholders or with freed slaves. Probably we could also call them like the nativists. And so these three important groups formulate together. The one flaw that the Republicans had as a unifying force was that it was only located in the North. In many states in the South, the Republicans weren't even on the ballot. But some effects are going to happen, including with the Democrats, and it's the breakup of the Democratic Party. This was a long time coming, but 1860 is when we see the Democrats break apart, and they are the last real unifying force in the country, the last national party that's not based on regions. The Democrats break up over the position of slavery. The Northern Democrats want to basically just status quo and kind of let everybody just kind of stay in their corners and say, hey, we're going to, live and let live. If slavery stays in the South, it's all good. The Southern Democrats, on the other hand, um, were very much opposed to any limits or restrictions on slavery and wanted guarantees that slavery would be allowed in the new territories out west. And eventually, even though this party is not completely part of the Democrats, I count them in it because the Constitutional Union Party was formed during this election, and they were their kind of like party platform was, we are going to follow the Constitution as written. In other words, we're going to follow the Constitution because it says that slavery is legal. Okay, so those are you have on one side you have the Republicans unifying together in the North, and then you have the Democrats split by regions. The Northern Democrats are obviously in the North, the Southern Democrats are obviously in the South, and then the Constitutional Union is going to have a lot of power in the border states, your Tennessees, your Virginias, your Kentuckys. Okay, but let's talk about the candidates. The first one, let's talk about the Constitutional Union candidate. You had John Bell. John Bell ran for the Constitution Union, and he was going to fight for basically what he saw as the maintaining of the Constitution, so i.e., slavery. Your next one, you have Senator Stephen Douglas from Illinois. He was the Northern Democrat candidate, and Senator Douglas was primarily a popular sovereignty man. That was his big platform. He said all of the territories will get to vote. And he said any territory that votes to be a slave state, they're going to be a slave state. Any territory that votes to be a free state, there is going to be a free state. This was kind of a clever way of Douglas saying, hey, I don't personally support slavery, or I don't really have an opinion on slavery. You are the one who's supposed to have an opinion. The next one was John Breckinridge. He was from the South, and he would ride as the pro-slavery candidate. But of course, the most famous candidate in the election of 1860 is Abraham Lincoln, congressman from Illinois, a lawyer, a shop owner. There's so much about Lincoln's story. Lincoln had become a vocal critic of slavery. His debates with Stephen Douglas when he ran against him in the Illinois Senate race really put him in a national spotlight. And Lincoln rides this wave of anti-slavery to become nominated as the party's leader. There was a lot of interest into seeing how Lincoln would do, seeing as how he was such a political unknown when it came to the party and to the people abroad. But what was the result? Well, the Republicans are going to win. Are going to win when it comes to the electoral and popular vote. The Democratic vote is split amongst the three. Lincoln does not win a single vote in the southern states, but he still goes on to win in an electoral landslide. Now, here's a couple things to clear up. Some people would say, oh, wouldn't wouldn't the Democrat candidate have won if they all work together? Actually, no. Lincoln still would have won the Electoral College because he won all of the heavy electoral states like New York and Ohio and Illinois and Pennsylvania and Michigan, all those states that had the majority of the population. Lincoln also would have still most likely won the popular vote. He ended up with around 40 to 45% of the popular vote, and we have to imagine that some of those protest votes, for instance, in the Constitutional Union, would have gone to Lincoln. So Lincoln still would have won the popular vote or been very close. Lincoln wins a plurality of the popular vote, meaning that he had the most, and then he wins a majority in the Electoral College. And according to the Constitution, doesn't matter if he only won like 40% of the popular vote, he is the president because he got a majority in the Electoral College. This sets off a chain of events that we will delve into mostly next week. But one thing that's really important is that it's kind of hard for some of these Southerners who didn't even see this guy's name on the ballot, and all of a sudden, oh, he's president? I don't think so. And this election of 1860 is not really just the stacking of more TNT on or dynamite onto the pile. This is someone pouring a gallon of gasoline and throwing the match onto the blaze and setting off what we know as the Civil War. But what do you think? If you have a question or a comment about the election of 1860, go ahead and comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe Mr. H on YouTube, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.